And I think you all have called this the cheap fakes video, and that's exactly what they are. They are cheap fakes video, these deep fakes, these manipulated videos, and it is, again, done in bad faith.
Yes, a professional liar, I'll be a Democrat spokesmodel. Cringe is her name. Her parents named her Cringe. Why did they call her Cringe? How did they know? That is genius, I've got to say. And now she's got a book that, it's not actually out now. It's going to be out months and months from now while someone else writes it. But, when you get accustomed, you become accustomed to lying every day and getting away with it. Then you come out and you lie about your coming book that somebody else is writing that will come out in the fall. And how tedious. What about? But they lie very comfortably because they have gotten away with it so many times that they just settle into the lie, make the lie so big that no one would dare not to believe it. Speaking of Chuck Schumer, he's the Lizard King, of course, and these guys. I tell you, they're about to break away. We're looking at states breaking away from the union again. The Democrats may be reforming their old Confederate States of America. I talked to you the other day about Gavin Newsom, the California hair gel governor. He's working with China behind the scenes, the communist Chinese, working with the communist Chinese behind the scenes, trying to work out trade deals like he's broken away from the United States. He should probably be arrested by the FBI in a pre-dawn raid with a television camera crew across the street watching the whole thing. Brought into the loop, so we got that. But now Chuck Schumer, he is calling the big beautiful bill. He's calling it the "We're All Going to Die Act." Isn't that what it's called? We're all going to die act. And the Democrats, they're the left. They're already digging the mass graves because they're like the communist Chinese, but without the math skills. See, the math skills the Chinese, the Democrats don't have. Yeah, Schumer, the "We're All Going to Die Act." This is what they're calling it. You guys should stop shooting Republicans and firebombing Jews and setting them on fire with flamethrowers and Molotov cocktails and defending terrorists and foreign gang members. Then a lot fewer of us would die. But a lot of people are dying because of you, Lizard King Schumer, you miscreant. Can I call him a miscreant on the radio? I think that I can. Yeah, pretty amazing stuff they got here. It's the headline here: Schumer renames Trump's bill the "We're All Going to Die Act." Yeah, well, first of all, we are all going to die. It's funny. I was talking to somebody yesterday about this, unrelated to Chuck Schumer. It was before he came out with this, and I said years ago I decided that on my tombstone, many, many years from now, it should read, "I thought this would happen." Right? I thought this would happen. I'm still debating. Maybe I thought this might happen, but I thought this would happen. I was afraid this would happen. Just I thought this might happen. There it is. But Chuck Schumer is now, it's the "We're All Going to Die Act" because, they're the Communist Party in the 21st century in the United States of America. They're miscreants. So speaking of the Communist Chinese, the close personal friends of the Democrat Party, the Communist Chinese, turns out there are two Communist Chinese that sneaking in bio-agents, these agro-terrorism they brought in, the Wuhan Red Death out of the Wuhan Institute of Virology that allegedly took the lives of 7 million people worldwide. Well, these two Chinese communists came into the country because they're sleeping with Democrats. Maybe they're all having sex with Eric Swalwell again, like Fang, because you know how they are. But these two Chinese came in. Hey, Michigan, University of Michigan, got these Chinese coming in, and they're smuggling into the United States in a fashion that they're hoping would not be detected by immigration and customs officials, sneaking biohazards into the United States of America, smuggling them in, and they can poison our crops and cause massive economic upheaval. It would be the crops equivalent of the Wuhan Red Death, also known as the Wu, because Wu, the Chinese. and their Wuhan Institute of Virology, which Dr. Anthony Fauci liked to give them our money, taxpayer money, American taxpayer money, to the Chinese communists in Wuhan. Isn't that amazing? But it's a crazy story. Chinese couple arrested for smuggling a fungus. Write your own jokes there, because you're coming out of Western China, you might come in with a fungus between your toes or something, but they smuggled in quite deliberately a fungus grown in a laboratory, considered a biological pathogen. They wrapped it up in tissue and smuggled it in their shoes and in the backpack, and wanted to make sure that Customs and Immigration didn't find their fungus, their biohazard fungus, because then they could infect our crops here. And I was reading yesterday, what is it? It affects a whole range of crops, including, I was reading the thing, and it said including maize, right? And as I'm really maize, my people call that corn. That's like the old TV commercial where they say corn and the Indian lady steps up and says, my people call it maize. Now Democrats are just calling it maize because they're not on the side of our culture. They're on the side of somebody else's culture. Aren't they amazing? These awful, terrible Democrats, they call themselves, but really they're leftists, and we've got that going on. It's a Fusarium graemine aurum, that the Chinese communists have sneaked into the United States, to the University of Michigan, and a Chinese researcher, you know what she researches? Ways to destroy America. She's a Communist Party rep, and the Democrats wave them all into the country, at just like the gang members from Venezuela, and from, where else can they get gang members from? They got El Salvador and Venezuela. They'll take them from anywhere. Tens of thousands of Chinese sneaked across the border, tens of thousands, literally, of just Chinese sneaked across our southern border during Joe Biden. Military divisions worth of Chinese communists already in the country. And President Trump says, we're going to need to start deporting people. And the Democrats start Molotov cocktailing Jews in response, like the governor of Pennsylvania while he slept with his family in the governor's mansion during Passover. But never mind that. It's almost like they're not on our side. Hey, wait a minute. I've been saying for years that they're not on our side. That's true. So, Chinese researcher at the University of Michigan and her boyfriend, they've been charged with smuggling a potential agro-terrorism weapon. Agricultural terrorism weapon into the United States. The boyfriend, 30-year-old Zunyong Lu. He was caught at the Detroit metropolitan airport, in last July with this fungus pathogen. It's fungal, and 4 plastic baggies stashed and rolled up into tissues, hidden in his backpack, and the fungus is Fusarium graemine aurum, and it's a potential agro-terrorism weapon. And I love this part. They said it causes a disease called head blight. Now, the head blight is in crops. And they said the crops that included, they got wheat and barley and rice and maize. Maize. When did we start calling it maize? It's corn. My people call it corn. Just call it corn. Stop calling it maize. Come on. I'm not Pocahontas over here like Elizabeth Warren is. Amazing stuff. The fungus is responsible for billions of dollars in destruction of crops worldwide already, just by the way. And the 2 Chinese, they've been researching this pathogen in China since 2023, and then they were dispatched to the United States, smuggling the pathogen in, disguised as anything else. We got in the shoes and in the backpack, and they're smuggling it in. And they've just been working on it since 2 years ago. And now they've smuggled it into the United States. The University of Michigan has welcomed them in. I'm surprised it's not Harvard. And the communists, they kill and they destroy and they steal what's left. That's what they do. Just see the 20th century. Isn't it amazing? Also an amazing story. And we did this story on my television show on Newsmax last night at 10 p.m. Eastern. And it was good fun because we've got a Democrat governor in the state of Arizona. Her name is Katie Hobbs. And the legislature, the state legislature in Arizona, they passed a bill that would prohibit the Chinese communists from buying up land around military bases in Arizona And the Democrat Katie Hobbs, she vetoed the bill because I think she's more, politically speaking, more of a Chinese communist than she is an American Democrat. She is not really Democratic at all. But the Chinese love her. The communists, they love her. She's doing their bidding for them, as so many of the Democrats are, because, they're not on our side. They're just not on our side at all. Amazing stuff. And on my TV show last night, again on Newsmax, did I say it was at 10 p.m. Eastern? 10 p.m. Eastern. They wonderfully, a Republican state senator named, her name is Janaea Shemp, and she came out about the Democrat governor, Katie Hobbs, vetoing the bill that would prevent the communist Chinese from buying up the land around military bases. Now, we just saw Ukraine use a whole bunch of drones to go deep into Russia to attack their air bases, their airfields, and blow up, set fire to, otherwise destroy and damage Russia's long-range bombers at, I think, 5 different air bases. And the Democrats are waving the communist Chinese into the United States. Hey, we'd like to buy up all the land around Luke Air Force Base. Can we do that? And Katie Hobbs says, hell yeah, we love death. We love Chinese Communist Party death. Do you have any Wuhan with you? Because I'd like to have a Wuhan sandwich over here, these people. But a nice lady who's an actual sane state senator there, Janaea Shemp, she said of the Democrat governor, Katie Hobbs, vetoing the bill, said, it's utterly insane that Arizona's top elected official would rather be an obstructionist against safeguarding our citizens from the threats than to sign legislation giving our state a fighting chance at proactively preventing attacks. Katie Hobbs is a total disgrace. Good for her. I like this woman, State Senator Shemp. I think she's got a lot of common sense. Seems to be an intelligent person. So we've got a bit of that going on. The Chinese communists, they're invading. The Democrat Party is their tool. The radical Islamists are invading. The Democrat Party is their useful tool. Useful idiots that they are. Just amazing, amazing stuff. I am telling you. So we got that. And Chuck Schumer is calling the Reduce Your Taxes bill. He's calling it the We're All Going to Die Act. And honestly, then they got back to firebombing people and self-immolating. They're not very well. Yes, sir. And the Democrat. You see this Democrat, an elected Democrat who says we need more illegal aliens. I guess I'm gonna have to. Should I clean this up? I'm not sure what I need to do here exactly, but there is an elected Democrat who says we need more illegal alien gang member, rapist, murderers, because who's going to wipe our beep? Who's going to wipe our, and she's referring to her ass, and she said, if we don't have illegal alien immigrants, who's going to wipe I'll clean it up, wipe our butts? And that's what the elected Democrat official is saying. We need illegal aliens because we need to bring in people to wipe our bottoms. Isn't that amazing? They're just some. Also, President Trump is imposing a new travel ban after the radical Islamic jihadi terror attack in Boulder, Colorado, where another illegal alien, a jihadi who loves the Muslim Brotherhood, which has been banned all over the Arab world. But the Democrats say, well, you can come here and grow the Muslim Brotherhood and, set fire to the Jews, bring back the Holocaust, because, the Socialist Workers' Party of Adolf Hitler has got a lot in common with the Democrat Party of today. I wonder if back in the 30s and the 40s, whether the Nazis went around calling everybody else Nazis. You think they did that? Just no sense of irony. But the Democrat Party today. But in any case, President Trump imposed a new travel ban. And you know how the news media loves this travel ban. There are travel restrictions, new travel restrictions, because we don't want to have the Muslim Brotherhood, although the Democrats do, growing in the United States of America. But the Dems, they're not on our side. After the Colorado terror attack, President Trump with new travel restrictions from certain countries where there are a lot of radical Islamic jihadi terrorists, and the Democrats are going to fight for the terrorists. That's the role of the Democrat Party today. And then they're going to come for your children's genitalia, because there's a lot wrong with these people, a lot wrong. Hey, Democrats, stop shooting people. Stop firebombing stuff. Stop setting Jewish people on fire. And then we won't have the, we're all going to die act, because you guys are the we're all going to die act. Inviting, the Chinese, the most murderous regime in the history of humankind. Hey, let's wave them in. Jihadis of the Muslim Brotherhood banned in the Arab world. Let's wave them in. Oh, what the hell? Let's just open our doors and our windows. Let's open our southern border and see what happens. What's the worst? What's the worst thing that could happen? Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. Bom, bom, bom. We won't get fooled again, or will we? I think cringe will get fooled again. Let's go to the telephones, Michael. Let's go to Tom, calling from Woodbridge, Virginia. Thomas, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Yeah, Chris, I'd say that it's a minor miracle that they discovered this one pathogen coming in. And I would say there's probably 50 or 100 more of them out there. We may not be at war with China, but they're at war with us.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Well, look, China has announced out loud the world's most murderous, the history's most murderous regime, the Chinese communists since the Maoist Revolution in 1949. And they've murdered 50 million at least of their own people. And some research suggests 75 million of their own people murdered. They have an active slave trade that make your Nike sneakers and your iPhones with the little fingers of the child slave labor. And the Democrats love that. But you're right. They're planning on dominating the planet Earth in the 21st century. Right? And they've said that out loud, Tom. And they have no regard. They're communists. So like Putin, absolutely no regard for human life, contempt for human life, happy to kill 7 million dead around the world, according to the official reports from the Wuhan Red Death. And now we see these fake couples smuggling toxic pathogens into the United States. And what do you think they're planning on doing with them, Tom?
Just attack. You're releasing them all over the country, just like they did with COVID.
Right. And there is a new strain of COVID brewing right now in communist China, too. A new, more virulent strain of COVID is brewing in China. Might be COVID-20 or something. The communists are the bad guys, Tom, and all they do is kill, destroy, and steal, and they do most of that with the assistance of Democrats at places like the University of Michigan and Anthony Fauci's office. You've got to recognize that when a communist country like China is trying to kill you all and dominate you, and they've got a 100-year plan, a 100-year march, you should start paying attention. Couple of big anniversaries today in the universe of politics as well. None of them have anything to do with Corinne Jean-Pierre, because she'll never do anything relevant, but she'll always be my own personal Raggedy Ann doll, my little Raggedy Ann. She's we've got cringe coming up because she's an embarrassment to civilization and Democrat in good standing, and the media loves her and just lies about everything, and that's okay. That's good. And we've got her lying, old lying and new lying, because Democrat. And Chuck Schumer, we're all going to die. That the first thing that reminded me of was Congresswoman Katie Porter and her little daughter, the apocalyptic death cultist daughter, who, we're all going to die. And really, it's like... good old what's-her-name going into Gaza on a multi-million-dollar yacht. She's Greta von Thunberg. She is also another, we're all going to die. And David Hogg, he's another, we're all going to, the child prophets of doom that the left peddles. And then they wave Chinese communists into the country with deadly pathogens that could destroy crops for generations to come and starve the world, because they're communists, and the Democrat Party waving them in. Again, as another strain of the Wuhan is brewing in communist China. Isn't that amazing? We're all going to die. Yes, we are. You know, another one, Michael, that I'm reminded of is the Michael Beschloss, the presidential historian, who said that if the Republicans won the midterm elections in the House of Representatives, then the Republicans would kill your children. The Republicans would kidnap, jail, and kill your children, because that's what award-winning presidential historian Michael Beschloss said on the television. That was pretty amazing. Oh, you have it right there? You already have it right in front of you? That's this goes with Chuck Schumer saying that the tax cut is the We're All Going to Die Act, and here is Democrat, faux academic, Michael Beschloss.
What was at stake tonight and this week was the fact whether we will be a democracy in the future, whether our children will be arrested and conceivably killed. We're on the edge of a brutal authoritarian system, and it could be a week away.
That was leading into the midterm elections during the first Trump term. And Michael Beschloss, who has been a media pimp for a great many years now, it's a terrible authoritarian and the regime on the precipice, the end of democracy. The Republicans will arrest your children and kill your children. And then they aborted 40% of the black population all year long, the Democrats, and they harvested their organs and they floss with them, which I think is the weirdest part. The rest, I become accustomed to the rest, but they're a pretty weird bunch. And then let's go to, you remember Katie Porter had, and this goes back to Greta von Thunberg. Greta Thunberg, the apocalyptic death cultist who is now pro-Hamas, and she's a genocidal Jew hater. They should be wearing armbands, these people. But Congresswoman Katie Porter from California was talking to Greta von Thunberg at a congressional hearing, who was coming in by Zoom because of the Wuhan Red Death loosed by the Communist Chinese, partially funded with U.S. tax dollars, thanks to Anthony Fauci, hero of the Democrat Party. And Katie Porter said, gosh, Greta von Thunberg, I was talking to my idiot daughter and turning her into a suicide bomber for the future.
I told my 9-year-old daughter that I was going to be speaking with you, and I said, what do you think about climate change? And she said, the earth is on fire, and we're all going to die soon. And I asked her how that made her feel, and she said it made her feel angry.
Made her angry. The earth is on fire and we're all going to die soon. This is the death cult that is the Democrat Party. The Islamists have nothing on the Democrat Party. The Chinese communists, they're still ahead of the Democrats, but give them time. Aren't they amazing? And then you may remember there was a Democrat, Congressman Alan Grayson, a Democrat congressman in 2009. We were alarmed this morning to see how long ago it was, 2009, but we remembered it like it was last week. Alan Grayson, Democrat congressman, talking about the Republicans and their alleged health plan.
The Republican health care plan is this: die quickly. That's right. The Republicans want you to die quickly if you get sick.
Because that's the Democrat Party's program. And then they shoot everybody and set everybody on fire and firebomb the governor's mansion, and they riot from coast to coast and burn everything. And isn't that amazing? Yes, it is. Wah, wah, wah. And then because it never stops with the left, and boy, they love death so much. They're completely crazy. Now let's go to Senator Joni Ernst, because we played this a couple of days ago. Where do we have the Joni Ernst was at a town hall, and soundbite number 14, and she was speaking to constituents, some of whom are very severely mentally impaired, Luigi Mangione loving Democrats, and Joni Ernst talking and being polite and being adult and being professional. There's a Democrat in the back screaming like a maroon, "We're all going to die." Because Donald Trump's bill, which will keep taxes lower rather than increasing taxes by trillions of dollars, which the Democrats want to send the government to your house at gunpoint to steal everything you have. But the Joni Ernst at the town hall, and a Democrat in the back screams, people are going to die. And Joni Ernst made a quip.
They are not eligible, so they will be coming off. So people are not, well, we all are going to die. So for heaven's sakes, folks, okay.
In Democrat world, they're all going to become martyrs, and they're going to live in paradise with 72 virgins because they've lost their minds. So Joni Ernst made a quip, made a joke. Now let's go to Chuck Schumer, because Senator Chuck Schumer, also known as the Lizard King, widely known as the Lizard King, and the scaly Senator Schumer from New York, he's attacking Joni Ernst and attacking Donald Trump and attacking pro-American people, attacking people who are not firebombing Jews. He pretends to be a Jew himself, not firebombing Jewish governors' mansions with Molotov cocktails. The Democrats really love the Molotov cocktail. But Chuck Schumer, he doesn't like the bill that's before the Senate now.
The bottom line is very simple. People with this bill, tens of millions who would otherwise qualify for health care benefits,
illegals,
would be mummified in new red tape, shortened enrollment periods,
you don't
higher
like red
premiums,
tape?
and weaker coverage. People will fall through the cracks and get phased out of coverage in the coming years.
Cracks?
Death by 1,000 paper cuts.
You love that.
That's the intention of the Republican bill.
This is yesterday. The Lizard King, Senator Chuck Schumer. That's the intention. I can state with perfect clarity that is not the intention of the Republican bill. You remember President Trump, they attacked him just 2 weeks ago for going up to Capitol Hill and cursing President Trump, allegedly, not on camera, according to anonymous sources, used a bad word and said, don't beep with health care. Used a bad word, and the news media was all over it. The Lizard King, Chuck Schumer, that, first of all, is the first time he has been against red tape in his entire life. And he loves death by 1,000 paper cuts. That's what he lives for. And, stop harvesting the organs of 1 million unborn babies every year, including 40% of the black population, because you're the party of slavery and the bullwhip. When are you going to stop that? The answer is never, at least no time in the foreseeable future. The Lizard King.
And we all know one thing. Donald Trump is just lying.
Pounding the table.
Lying about the bill.
You're lying.
Well, here's the "We are all going to die" act. We're all going to die bill.
They brought up
and
a
that
poster
shows
board.
The callousness of this Republican majority in the House and the Republican majority in the Senate.
Maybe you should speak up against the rampant Democrat Party political violence and the mob violence that has become perfectly commonplace in the United States, thanks to the Democrat Party and all of your violence, all of your political violence. And they're all the wimpy, weaselly, creepy, anemic people that live among us. And that's why they form mobs, because they're not man enough to stand. Oh, we got an update on that, too. Not man enough to stand up on their own 2 feet. And when they do, usually they're in pumps. Usually they're in high heels. Something frilly, often red. Chuck Schumer.
Just don't take my word for it.
Okay.
Look at Senate Republicans. We heard what Joni Ernst said. We're all going to die. When Joni Ernst said people will die, she summed up the callousness of the whole Republican majority in terms of people's health. And health is our greatest gift.
Health is our greatest gift. That's what Brett Kavanaugh and his family believed also while they were minding their own business in their homes when you, Lizard King, Senator Chuck Schumer, advocated murdering members of the Supreme Court. And then a Democrat showed up shortly thereafter with a gun and extra magazines of ammunition and burglary tools and kidnapping tools at the home of Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. And this Democrat had a plan to murder 3 Supreme Court justices.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price.
Ah, yes, and the Kavanaugh assassin, who Democrat, because the Democrats are going around shooting everybody like Steve Scalise and Donald Trump and police officers. And now, you got the Democrat leader of the House of Representatives wants to dox ICE officers to endanger their lives. And this Democrat, Nicholas Roski, was arrested outside of the home of Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, armed and ready for combat, because the Democrat Party is the party of we're all going to die because they're going to kill you. How about that, Lizard King? Why aren't there any Republicans on Capitol Hill that sound exactly like me? That's what I want to know. All right, let's go to the telephones, Mike. Did I get to all those sound bites on that thing? I think that I did. Let's go to the telephones. Let's go to Rachel, calling from Clark County, Virginia. Rachel, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hello, Chris, again. Always a pleasure, my friend. How are you today?
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Having a grand old time?
Aren't we always? So on the pinpoint that you just made about the Democrats wanting to dock the ICE agents, isn't it funny how much they fought against finding out the identities of the 27 agents that were mingling along the J6ers? We don't know who they are because of the threat of their safety, but let's go ahead and we're going to dox all of the ICE agents.
That is a really
another hypocrisy.
Great point. Well, as everyone's grandparents used to say, Rachel, were it not for double standards, liberals would have no standards at all.
Amen. I use that line all the time. Again, every time I talk to you, it's always the same thing. It's always I see something they're doing and I find an exact opposite of things that they've done before. It's just always their hypocrisy. They don't care about the lives of our ICE agents who are doing their jobs, but they care about the people who are in J6, their agents. Why? Maybe because they were doing something wrong?
Maybe they were doing something wrong, and we still can't get to the bottom of that. Isn't that amazing? And these confidential human sources that the FBI had in the crowd by the dozens. And the news media, first of all, our news media, the filthiest, most corrupt institution in America, they're all Jake Tappers now. And, it's like kind of a Spartacus moment, but the guy that stood up was an anti-journalist, and now everybody's following suit. But you make an excellent, excellent point that the dozens of confidential human sources, confidential human informants in the crowd on Capitol Hill and inside the Capitol, we learned. And yeah, let's ask Hakeem Jeffries, no filthy, lazy, low IQ reporter, incurious reporter will ever ask Hakeem Jeffries, well, you want to dox ICE agents that are rounding up gang members that are illegal aliens. Shouldn't we have the names and identities and home addresses and license plate numbers of the dozens of confidential human informants that the FBI had in their employ in the crowd on January 6th at the Capitol? Because, I think they're on our payroll. We should know their names. And by the way, the ICE agents, their bosses know who they are. It's not like every American needs to. They're being threatened. Their lives are being threatened. Their families are being threatened because the Democrats are turning the United States into a third world country.
I got one more for you, Chris. Do you remember the group called Patriot Front?
Patriot Front. Refresh my memory.
There's pictures. They're the groups that the quote unquote white supremacist group that were marching around against Glenn Youngkin. They were all arrested in matching cargo pants and T-shirts and hats. Well, they were all allegedly arrested, but you see pictures of them, with their tactical gear still on. Their hands are zip tied behind them, but all of their masks are still on. I don't know what law enforcement agency would arrest a bunch of quote unquote supremacists and then let them keep all of their tactical gear on and their masks on as well. But that was during the Joe Biden era, another one where the Democrats didn't seem to care about unmasking those people either, even though they were white supremacists, supposedly. It always just seems to conveniently work out in their favor.
Isn't that amazing? Right. And what was it, 26? Is that the number of confidential informants, FBI informants in the crowd on January 6th? And boy, if we had a news media, I wonder what they would do with their time. Boy. Crazy country we've got here. I've got to say, Rachel, we've got to call out the left because they're not liberals. And they're waving the communist Chinese in and Egyptian jihadis who love the Muslim Brotherhood that's actually been banned in Egypt, but not at the University of Michigan and where they got the Chinese bringing in the biohazards, and not in Arizona. The Democrat Party is not on our side.
We do know that many more people, millions, hundreds of thousands of people will die if this bill passes.
Now, today is June 5th, the 5th of June. That means yesterday was the anniversary of the Chinese Communist Tiananmen Square massacre of thousands. I remember the day very well. I remember the day before the massacre at Tiananmen Square, the Chinese marched troops into Tiananmen Square, and then they turned them around and marched them out. And I was in a newsroom, and I said, that was a warning by the communists. When they come in next time, they're going to kill everyone. And there was a little bit of, well, that's kind of a harsh assessment. And less than 24 hours later, they marched in and they murdered thousands in Tiananmen Square because that's what communists do. Now, it should be noted as well that 21 years ago today, on June 5th in 2004, Ronald Wilson Reagan passed away. Ronald Reagan died at the age of 93 years old. June 5th of 2004, the 40th president of the United States. And another June 5th moment, 57 years ago, Robert F. Kennedy, the senior, not Robert F. Kennedy Jr., but Robert F. Kennedy, the senator, the brother of the assassinated President John F. Kennedy. Robert F. Kennedy was shot in the head on June 5th, 1968. He was a Democratic presidential candidate and senator and former attorney general at the time, shot at the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles, California. He actually died after midnight, so technically he died June 6th, but he was shot in the head by Sirhan Sirhan, a Palestinian. Robert F. Kennedy was shot in the head on June 5th at the Ambassador Hotel, and that was 57 years ago today. Big day. And then tomorrow is, of course, the 6th of June, D-Day. And you know what we're going to play tomorrow? We got to play tomorrow. One of my favorite audio bits.